I guess one of the responsibilities that we have as a DP is that everything around us might be perfect. The performers might be perfect. The design might be perfect. The script might be great. The director might be great. But if we're not in tune with what it is the director is trying to achieve, then we can royally balls it up.
Dan, thank you so much for giving up a little bit of your time for this event. I want to start about talking about your collaboration with director Guillermo del Toro. You've collaborated together a number of times already, the latest one obviously being Nightmare Alley. Can you describe the way that you two work together a little bit?
We start to work together on Guillermo's first American movie and my second American movie back in, I think it was 96 or something like some years ago. And there was a pretty dark movie called Mimic, and we didn't know each other a lot, or not at all actually, but both of us liked this like dark shadows of the life and deep shadows and bright highlights and moving the camera a lot and try to tell the story with the camera and the lighting being a part of the dramatic storytelling. We are still very much the same, like we like to move the cameras a lot. We want to think about where the camera is like very precise. And the lighting should be a part of the dramatic storytelling. And that's especially on Nightmare Alley, that was a challenge because the camera is moving so much. We are moving, the takes was much longer this time compared to what we did last on Shape of Water. And especially when you're coming into the Art Nouveau with Kate Blanchett and Brad Cooper in Kate's office. Because the camera's moving so much and the light has to be so precise, and if the actors are like a little bit off, it doesn't work. It's like 5 centimeters to the left or right. Then it's not working. So there was a kind of a ballet between the actors, the camera, and the lighting, and it was super challenge. And of course, you can only do that when you have a director that wants to go that way, and actors that are so precise and really like to do the same.
The film drenched in darkness in so many ways. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of these very dense black tones in the film?
Yeah, when we start to prep the movie, of course, we talked a lot about how should the movie look, what way should we go, and we decide to go longer takes, more wide angle and a lower angle. We shot much more wide angle comparing to what we did before. So all the light have to be outside the set. Most of the light was also outside the set, except that light on Kate. There was a one Kate very close to her, and a lot of that stuff was handheld. But it's just when you see some of the Orson Welles, the older movies, I was thinking about that, ceilings, wide angles. So that was like, and we never talked about that, Guillermo, me and Tamara. It was just I thought about that a lot. I have a really, really good crew up there with fantastic people, and you know how it is, right? You do a half a rehearsal and then you just shoot it. And then, of course, the focus puller, Doug Lavender, was like fantastic because, the camera was moving so much. Everything, we never shot one single shot where the operator still was looking into the camera. Everything was steady cam or remote heads.
Wow.
So that's a really challenge for the focus puller, of course. But it was a fun movie to do, except we get shut down in the middle of it because of the COVID. So we stopped in the middle of a scene and then we get picked up 6 months later in the same scene. That was like, excuse me, can we not reshoot that? No, we loved what that was.
There's got to be a documentary made about all the films that shut down halfway through and where it shut down, to show in the movie, because I'm desperate to find out. I know where our film shut down, but I want to know where everybody else's film shut down. I just want to notice the aging on the actors or something.
In an interview that you gave that you don't even consider a project unless you absolutely fall in love with the script. Can you talk a little bit about what was it about Jane's script that really struck you?
I mean, I guess when someone like Jane calls you, you can probably trust that it's going to be a great project, because I think she's the same in that she's very selective with the kind of stories she chooses to make. Jane's a kind of amazing director in that she's very, she loves prep, and then she's completely open on the day to a better idea coming. She's very kind of playful with the ideas, and that ideas kind of keep coming and the best one's going to rise to the surface, and it's not until the end of the last take that you can kind of stop accepting ideas. An idea might come after take 6 or something. It was just happened to be a 2 weeks that there was just so much other stuff to do. We did the tech scout. Jane very wisely managed to say very early on that she wouldn't be on the tech scout, and so we were doing that kind of thing. But I mean, throughout the whole year, Jane's very incredible in that she can, at any moment, you can find yourself in improvising a kind of scene, and you find yourself playing a role or another, and she does as well. And anyone that happens to be around is kind of implicated in this scene that is.
I hope you've got video of that. You have to have video of that. That's got to be behind the scenes, doesn't it? You know, one of the joys that I have being a cinematographer is not necessarily creating a lovely image or doing a wet landscape at dusk. It's getting into that of some incredible performance, particularly when you realize at this point in the movie this is required. And you know, I mean, again, I can tell you so many opportunities that I've had. Like in this, what did you find the most rewarding? I mean, don't single out actors necessarily, but like, what was the most rewarding part of capturing this film? Forget the images, but just in terms of those actors.
I mean, I think it's also like you know a script really well by the time you come to shooting, and you've kind of been unconsciously reading it in your mind, the you know, the dialogue and stuff, and you're imagining what a scene will be. And then when you actually see the actors do it, you realize what a crappy actor you are in your head, because all these lines that you've been kind of reading, and then you actually see someone that can actually act really well, and adding, I don't know, just you think you're the master, or like you really know a scene incredibly well because you've read it so many times and you've talked about what it means and what its purpose is, and you think there could be no one that would understand this scene better than, you know, me and the director do. And then you have someone come in and actually do it, and it's just so much bloody better than anything my mind could have come up with. There are little hurdles that have to get overcome, and there'll be a moment of crisis that's not quite working, and maybe you can't find the shot and the actor's not quite finding it and it's not quite there, and then suddenly something will all kind of get back, you know, the wheels will start moving again, and you get there. But that's a real privilege, I think, as a DP, to actually be right in the center of it, watching these incredible kind of people who really know their craft work on something together, also when the clock's ticking. It's not just
and the sun's going down,
and to like figure it out and see what happens. It's like, no, we have to get this by 4 p.m. because that's also a real really fascinating and sometimes terrifying.
When you take on this project, Greg, you're already kind of living up against an imagined world that's in a book, a huge fandom that's imagined, reimagined this world, and a film that already exists. Kind of, what is then your starting point for crafting it, and how much of a vision for Dune did Denis already have when he approached you?
Well, he had been reading it since he was 13. I think he read it multiple times. I had never read that book before. I was born a touch after, I think, the heyday of the book. So my influences, my references were all post sort of, you know, 1980s Dune, which, you know, I'd seen the original Lynch version a long time ago, but I hadn't watched it recently. But that was one of the first things Denis said to me. He goes, listen, this is not that. As much respect as he had for that, he goes, this is not that. This is completely different. And so I just allowed him to just to speak and to listen, you know, and he's a very eloquent, sophisticated speaker, if you've ever had the chance to chat to him. And this was so clear in his mind, you know, this mood, this feel, this world was so clear in his mind. And Denis speak to me about that. It was very clear he wanted to focus very, very closely on character. You know, one of the things I've enjoyed throughout my career is being able to work, as I just asked with Ari, about some fantastic actors, you know, and you know, ironically with Jane on Bright Star back in 2008, and you know, like just learning about the fact that a film doesn't take place outside of that. Like that is a film, you know, and even if you have that without dialogue, you can have a film like that without dialogue and it's still a beautiful film because you've got these amazing performers to film. I guess one of the responsibilities that we have as a DP is that everything around us might be perfect. The performers might be perfect. The design might be perfect. The script might be great. The director might be great. But if we're not in tune with what it is the director is trying to achieve, then we can royally balls it up, and it's not. I don't know. That is my biggest fear, is that I walk away from a project not giving 100% to it for a star, which I always would, but also just ballsing up their vision. Like, so it was a very much a you know, an honor for me to be able to sort of not necessarily make a film that millions of people will see. It was an honor for me to be able to help bring to life this man's vision, Denis Villeneuve, who, you know, who's an extraordinary director. I think a secret weapon that I have, and I think Ari has as well, we both come from Melbourne in Australia, of this tiny little town. Well, it's not tiny. I shouldn't say tiny, because I'll be assassinated when I go back there. But it's a small city, right? It's a small city in Australia, and filmmakers in this city, I think, very sort of heart-based filmmakers. You know, like Australia also, but generally filmmakers in Australia. I mean, it's not just Australia, of course, but I'm generalizing. But it's kind of, we don't have anything else except that. That's the problem. There are not enough resources. All we've got is heart. So if it's at all possible to approach every film like that, I mean, it does sound ridiculous when, you know, I'm saying that, but then we've got sandworms the size of, you know, the Empire State Building, and we've got like ridiculously oversized things in the frame. But ultimately, those things are just eye candy for the story that takes place. And like, I could relate to exactly what Denis was asking of Timothy, which was, he's in a place and he wants to get out of this place. Do you know what I mean? Like, he knows he has to be somewhere else, and he's not in this place where he needs to be. And, you know, he has dreams, he had visions, like, and I could easily put myself in that place. You know, I could easily put myself to say, well, this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. And sometimes it is because of a place. Sometimes the exciting part for me was that we went off type a little bit. You know, I hate genre labels and genre identities, you know, like, and again, Ari just touched upon that, going that her film is not a Western. Their film is definitely not a Western. It just happens to be set with horses and in the Midwest, right? Our film, I don't think is a sci-fi. It just happens to be set in the future with things that we can't imagine. So I believe that humans can relate to what they know and see. And like, if we can give them that, humans, sorry, it's very disrespectful to all the humans out there, but if we can give the audiences what they know, they can take a leap and go, yes, this is 8,000 years in the future.